Personality test of the UPSC Civil Service Examination, popularly known as the interview, is the final stage of this prestigious examination. The UPSC Interview Board scans the aspirant for suitable traits which are required in an individual to serve the higher echelons of the bureaucracy. Some of the traits they are looking for are mental caliber and alertness of the candidate, social traits and ability of social cohesion, clear and logical exposition, balance of judgment, intellectual and moral integrity, intelligent observation of events happening around the world. Vision IAS is commencing the Personality Test Program 2019 in an attempt to help bring out these desired traits from within the candidate's personality from 12th of November 2019. The features of the program are DAF analysis session with senior faculty members of Vision IAS, mock interview sessions with ex-bureaucrats and educationists, interaction with previous toppers and serving bureaucrats, performance evaluation and feedback. So don't miss this opportunity. Enroll now at www.visionias.in. Personality test of the UPSC.
इसको जेब में रखना. Okay. Yeah. Okay. नहीं वहीं पर. Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I extend my warm welcome to this open session. May I have the honor to wish you a very happy New Year, and though belatedly, Merry Christmas. Nothing gives greater pleasure to an old man to get the opportunity to interact with the young people, especially the brilliant, the competent group that is just before me. Let me congratulate you all on your brilliant success in crossing two hurdles, the prelims and the mains. Frankly, I admire your hard work, your determination, but above all, your courage to sit for the examination, which is probably the toughest in the world in terms of the number of posts and the number of people who sit for the examination. So hats off to you, and I welcome you to this open session. What does open session mean? It is an interactive session. It's not that I'm going to inflict a lecture on you, no, not at all. I would like you to intervene, of course, at the appropriate moment, and raise issues which you feel are important. Okay. Now, I'm most thankful to Mr. Ajay and Vision IAS for this opportunity given to me. And my task is essentially to discuss DAF2. Okay? See, DAF1 and 2 are interrelated. So what I intend to do, if we agree, is first of all to talk about what you call GSQR in the military terminology, General Staff Qualification Requirements. What are the qualifications required to hold highest positions in the civil service? What kind of character, personality, traits of character, I mean. So, this will mean essentially to see whether you have fully appreciated the circumstances, the qualification requirements and all that. In other words, the first part of the exercise is to help you to develop your capacity to face the what you call personality test. Okay? So after that, we'll look into the service preferences and finally cadre allocations. Okay? If this order of discussion suits you, tell me. Okay? Right. You see, you have formed DAF1 and now you are going to fill up DAF2. What is form? In life we fill up all kinds of forms, but introduction of form as an administrative tool was a great innovation. For this, we owe a lot to the great emperor Napoleon. It was Napoleon Bonaparte who introduced the institution of forms, binding down the citizen to state who is he and what he wants. And his signature means that he stands by whatever he states in the application. In other words, he can't backtrack. Therefore, a form is also in a way an affidavit, isn't it? Towards the end, you affirm that to the best of my knowledge and belief, what I have stated is correct. Now, this is therefore extremely important. Now, what exactly is the reason for your filling up this form? Every form is purpose-driven. There's a purpose. What is the purpose of your filling up these forms? Pretty clear. You want to project yourself. Self-projection. I mean, you have to project yourself as a candidate who possesses the potential qualities. You try to project yourself as a candidate suitable for appointment to the highest cadres of the central government. Okay? So it is self-projection. In a way, in a lighter way, I would say it is like your own horoscope. Only difference is that you signed your own horoscope. Okay? So you have to project yourself, keeping in view the job requirements. Is that okay? Therefore, it is necessary that you are absolutely careful in putting down what you mention in this form. So it is a serious matter, because it is a purpose-driven exercise, not to be taken in a casual manner. No, it is very serious. Second, this form is important because it will be read by some people. Everything they will see. And who are these people? These are old people who had gone through similar papers and forms all their life. And in a bit of a relaxed mood, when they sit as members of the UPSC, they will be extra careful in going out. First, they will try to find fault. This is a part of old man's character. Spelling mistakes, omission of this, that, or the other. Therefore, the first thing that you should be careful about, whatever you put down is correct. Even the name of your district, your postal address, everything must be correct. Then the question is, what exactly are you trying to project? As I mentioned, it is self-projection. Self-projection is different from self-advertisement. There's a world of difference between the two. You are making an honest projection. Please remember this word, honest. You are making an honest claim. You are making an honest projection for the purpose of consideration for selection to these cadres. Remember, you have a responsibility also. What's responsibility? You see, by qualifying, by passing the mains, you have earned the right to be interviewed. It is nobody's favor. Nobody has done in grace, not because of your family background or whatever. You have earned it by hard work and merit. Therefore, you are exercising your right to be considered for appointment to the Central Civil Service cadres. Right means responsibility also. Do you agree? When you are exercising your right, you should be responsible. And this concept of responsibility means you should be doubly careful about what you put down. And whatever you put down, you must have at the back of your mind your objective. Okay? Now, I'll digress slightly. Civil service here really refers to civil service under the central government. Okay? It deals with roughly all subjects which are listed in the central list of the Constitution. All India services are somewhat different because they are common to the center as well as to the states. But central civil service means cadres which deal with subjects in the central list. Okay? And also in the concurrent list. Take Indian Forest Service. Forest is in the concurrent list of the Constitution. So that is something you must remember, that you are trying for getting into cadres where the opportunities for going up is immense. The potential, your potential to hold the highest position in the government is what will be judged. And what is that quality? It's a mystic quality, so to say. Sometimes difficult to kind of define. But let me just share with you what we have been taught. Over half a century ago, when I joined Mussoorie, at that time National Academy of Administration, we are asked to go through a novel written by C.P. Snow, Lord C.P. Snow, The Corridors of Power. This novel tells you roughly how the parliamentary form of government and the civil service in Britain interact. That was a remarkable novel, and it's a good idea to go through it. Snow, 3 years later, probably in 1968, he delivered his famous lecture. The title, the subject of his lecture was Two Cultures. Two cultures. He talked about the culture of science, technology, and the culture of arts, philosophy, literature. And he argued that these two cultures are not in talking terms with each other. And that's the reason why world is facing a crisis. From this, he argued brilliantly that civil service is one institution in which these two cultures could blend to produce an institution capable of serving the society in a most appropriate manner. So, when C.P. Snow, a great scientist by any standard, he was asked, "Sir, what do you think of the outcome of it?" He said, "It is what you call the generalist approach to administration." Okay? Many of you have engineering backgrounds, arts, commerce, science, whatever. Remember, essentially, public policy making and delivery of public services boil down to exercise of powers over other human beings. Therefore, if you are asked to ask this question, why should you like to join civil service? If you give answer, "Sir, I would like to dedicate my life to serve the cause of the poor and downtrodden," it will only evoke some laughter. It is neither here nor there. To be frank, civil service is primarily the agency for enforcement of law and policies. Income tax service, what is it? Other than enforcement of tax laws? Like that? This applies to all services. So finally, if you look at it, even implementation of policies, well, all policies are the force of law. Development programs like Manrega, after all, it is implemented with funds sanctioned by the legislature. Okay. So, ultimately, the final analysis, you are enforcing law and implementing policies. Having said this, I come to the conclusion, again, what Lord Snow mentioned, that it all boils down to the delivery of justice. What do you call? Administrative justice. So, idea of justice, a book written by Amartya Sen, which you might like to go through, idea of justice is embedded in the entire instruments of civil service. Whatever decision you take, whether it is building a road connecting two villages, there is the element of justice in it. So therefore, the primary quality that will be seen during interview is whether you have a mind attuned to the idea of justice. Free from bias, free from prejudice, interest in other cultures, interest in environment, and more importantly, ability to connect matters which may not appear to be related at all, seemingly unrelated subjects, but they are a part of an integrated system. It is this quality which, going back to Lord Snow, is what is called generalist. And the board will judge whether you have that potential, essential to deliver justice. Which means that every matter has multi-dimensional aspects. Take a hydroelectric project, power generation, but it may mean deforestation, displacement, downstream effects, so many things. Just an example, every government decision, every matter that involves public interest or public cause has multiple dimensions. Now, based on this, let us look at, say, first your hobbies and extracurricular activities. Okay? Any question at this stage? Do you agree with the formulation that I have placed before you? Any question about the two cultures? I wanted to read that lecture by Lord Snow, if we have time. It's not a long lecture, but it's fantastic. Any question? No? Agreed? You see, why hobbies and extracurricular activities are considered important? Because they tell a lot about you. A man who loves playing cards is different from a man who loves to play table tennis or something else. So therefore, hobbies are important. It is a means to know you. And therefore, it is also a way of projecting yourself. Self-projection, okay? Not self-advertisement. Why? Because in advertisement, a lot of falsehoods are included to make the product, appealing. Soap, this, that, or the other. But in case of self-projection for this purpose, what is important is honesty. Therefore, you must know what is hobby and what's the difference between hobbies and extracurricular activities. Okay? And what it means is obvious, that hobbies means you have some passion for it, which you are likely to continue even after you get into service. Extracurricular activities, you may continue, may not continue. Football, yes, but after a certain age, maybe it's somewhat difficult. Therefore, what I want you to do is to just look at this form and tell me, how would you like to project yourself? What are your hobbies? And you have a format for your educational information. Okay? Now let's talk about hobbies. What do you think should be appropriate? Any thought on this? Tell me. How will you proceed? Come on. Tell me, what's the purpose of putting down your hobbies? Okay, the first point is, hobby is something that you have been cultivating for quite some time. It is not that you started only the other day. No. Hobbies must be something that had grown over the years. First quality. See? Or it could be that you have picked up something and found it fascinating. Then you have got to you have got to justify. Sir, this is a hobby that I have acquired now, but I am so impressed by it that I'd like to continue. Okay. Now, can you give me some examples of the kind of hobbies that you might have? Tell me. Yeah. Reading books. Fine. If you write reading books, then the question will be what kind of books? Non-fiction. What is the definition of non-fiction? Serious books? Philosophy? Articles? Newspapers? Magazines? So you give a thought. Okay? So reading books is one. Another hobby? Pardon? Football analysis. Good. The question would be, do you play football? Yes. Fine. Vipassana meditation. Fine. Calligraphy. Remarkable. Then, okay. All these are fine, but the point will be that whether you have passion for it. And why do you feel so? Calligraphy. What is it that attracts you to calligraphy? Calligraphy?
Kind of quotes I like to something I want to keep in any quote I want to learn and I want to keep in front of me. I used to write in a such way so that if I keep it so beautifully, so it will be reflected in my mind. Whenever I write it or whenever I paint it, so that it attracts me every time because I made it.
Could you think of an emperor of India who was a calligrapher, who earned his income from calligraphy? Aurangzeb. So this is a kind of information that you should have. And you see, for most people, calligraphy is a mystery. No? Better to avoid. Or is something to admire as a piece of art. But nothing more than that. Okay? So, like this kind of reasoning, once you say calligraphy, you should know also about the eminent calligraphers. And why was calligraphy so important? Why was it accorded such a lot of importance in Islam, for example? Many people copied it and then earned their living by selling it to others. Which means you ought to know a little bit about Islam also. Islam means you have to know the difference between Shia and Sunni sects. Also about Ahmadiyas. Okay? And why is there a problem between Shias and Sunnis? Because one thing may lead to another. Okay? So, the quality that will be expected in you is interest in other cultures. And a kind of curiosity that is required. The man who cultivates some hobbies is expected to be somewhat different from those who don't. But you have got to stand out. Any other hobby that you have in mind? Dancing and painting. Now you see, dancing is a recreation. It's a form of enjoyment. It can't be strictly speaking a hobby unless you are a performing artist. So if you are a performing artist, say in Kathak or in Kuchipudi or whatever, then you go to know. But dancing is a generic term. It includes all types. So you have got to know dancing. Then a question may be, how is Kathakali different from ballroom dancing? It may be flippant, but the idea is to see how it deals with flippant questions also. So you have got to be a little more informative about whatever hobbies you have. Okay? Now, one aspect of hobbies, you should be keen to continue it even after you get into service. The question is, will you have that kind of interest in it? If you are asked, what will be your answer? Yes, sir, I'll continue. Fine. So if you say this is my hobby, You are saying that you have a passion for it. And this passion will last, will continue. Okay. Any other hobby in mind? Pardon? Doing? Heritage works. Fine. What is heritage? You see, then please go through the Oxford Dictionary meaning of the word heritage. Heritage includes cultural heritage. Okay? What you are referring to is walking along places of history or places of historical importance. Okay? That is heritage walk. Then you got to explain that I primarily mean, I have in mind heritage walk in areas of historical importance. That's all. And then the question will be, what kind of heritage do you like? Because there's a matter of choice. Hobby is a matter of choice. What kind of heritage? All kinds of heritage? Okay. Now, the choice is important. It speaks volumes of a person. One of my colleagues from Calcutta, when he appeared for UPSC and interview, he was asked about something like that. He said, I don't like to see maqbaras and graveyards. I would much rather like to see majestic buildings, colonial buildings. So, what kind of heritage you have in mind? Are you fond of walking in the maqbaras or old forts or places of administrative importance or libraries or whatever? So, what is necessary is that you are in a position to satisfy that your hobby is really genuine. It is not an off-the-cuff kind of entry that you have put in only to fill up this portion. That is important. Anything? Pardon? Public speaking. Strictly speaking, it is not a hobby. Unless you have a passion for taking part in agitations or movements on that kind of thing. Public speaking, it depends on the forum that is available. The question will be, yes, but where did you speak last? And what was the subject? Would you? You see, colleges, when you speak about colleges, it's not strictly speaking public speaking. You are a student. You are taking part in debates, in various programs. Public speaking means speaking to a larger body. Because after you join service, you won't get the opportunity. So you can say, yes, public speaking in the sense, I want to interact with the people directly. Explain to them certain issues. And this is my hobby, which I'll be able to pursue when I get into service. I'll get ample opportunities to interact with the people, talk to them. Okay? Like that. Fine. Yes, but you must know what cricket is, or you must have played cricket. You have played cricket? No, whatever it is, your memory is sharp. So if you say, I have been following cricket, two things are expected. Number one, you should be familiar with what is happening, recent events. Second is, you must know about some details of cricket. Like for instance, what is a dead ball? So, and then what's the size of a cricket field? What's the distance between one wicket and the other? You see, like that. Some basics about cricket. What is the difference between off break and leg break? Like that. What is googly, for example? Like this, So, once you say it is a hobby, it is expected that you have passion for it. It is entirely up to you. I cannot advise.
What I'm asking is, how would the questions be varying in case if I put playing cricket instead of following?
You see, there is no certainty that this will be picked up. You have other hobbies, your educational qualifications speak volumes about you. The point here is that you should be prepared to answer any question that may be raised about your hobby. to judge, the board would like to see whether you have put it as a kind of truthful statement. You are trying to project yourself honestly. You really watch cricket and you know cricket, you're interested in it. That's a healthy activity. So they would like to ascertain. You see, remember, interview is not cross-examination. It is not quiz competition also. The idea is to engage you into a conversation. And you should help. So for that means whatever you put down, you should please know little more about it. That's my question. Yeah. Very good. Daily? Diary? Good. Blogging. Okay. When you say diary, they will ask you, can you think of a very famous diary? Diary of Anne Frank. That you should know. And why? The question was, who was Anne Frank? Then the whole lot of issues connected with Holocaust, the Jewish, crisis in Europe, everything. So one thing may lead to another. So, and then there are some emperors of India who used to write diaries. You know about some of them in the past. Babur Nama used to write this. So the idea is to connect your hobby to the wider world.
Can they ask like this question that if you write diary, have you written any autobiographies?
Yeah, question is, why do you write diary? Why? What is the passion? Why? Why do you feel like writing diary? There are many people who don't. Why? Pardon? I couldn't. Playing chess, fine. Fine, but then Mahabharata story you should remember, chess. Okay, fine. But then you have to establish that you know substantially about this matter and you have a passion for it and you are likely to continue it. Okay? Fine. Teaching, yes. Why? Then the question will be, I would like to communicate with the young people. After all, it's a means of communication, isn't it? So, yes, but you have to explain because members may not know about it. So this, remember, the members may not have any hobbies also, quite possible. They never had hobbies. So they would like to be enlightened. They would like to know about it. So be ready. Please assume that the board members may be innocent of such matters, so they would like to know. So you should use this advantage to put across your personality. What is personality? The definition of Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda is really to the point. He said, and I quote, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you act, the way you dream, all these constitute your character. Manifestation of your own thought process, your ideas. Therefore, my only request to you would be that please go through carefully what you have mentioned in the hobbies and then know little more about it and be ready to impress upon them that you have been sincerely and seriously pursuing it and therefore you are likely to continue it, which will add up to your what is called manifold personality. Okay? That you don't have a one-track mind, but you have a mind open to new ideas, new thoughts. Okay? Any question?
So can we write playing strategy games on computer?
Yes. Why not? Then the question will be, what is strategy?
Strategy is planning beforehand what will be the plan of action.
You see, if you look at the media, I mean, I'm talking about the printed media, geostrategic situation, strategic relationship of India and this or that. So this particular expression is really overriding. You know, it has a wide range. So strategy means long-term thinking. So if you say I do these games, then by the way, what do you understand by strategy? Do we have a strategy? What is India's development strategy? What is India's military strategy, defense strategy? Like that. So not only that you should know the game that you are playing in computer, but also you should know the wider implications of the word strategy. Okay? Yeah, tell me. Okay. You see, singing is not an unmixed virtue. In the sense, some people sing in the bathroom. That cannot be a hobby. It is strictly personal because nobody is getting any benefit out of it. So, rather put music, you know, and then you can talk about instrumental music, you can talk about vocal or whatever. But better be careful. If you're singing, then did you sing? When did you sing last? What was the song? And remember the title of the famous movie, The Singer, Not the Song. That is important. Photography, yes. Then will be, is it wildlife photography or nature photography or what? You know, yeah.
I have two queries, sir. One is my hobby is gymming, and another one I picked up recently is watching docu-series.
First, what you said?
Gymming, sir. Gymming.
Okay. Fine. Fine, absolutely fine. But be ready to explain how and why you feel passionate about it. That is important.
Another one I picked up recently is watching docu-series.
Watching?
Docu-series,
Documentaries. Yes, the question will be what kind of documentaries? And what documentary did you see last?
social issues and science and tech. Social issues documentary.
Very good.
Science and tech, recent phenomena.
Excellent. Then social issues. What social issues? Very good. But you see, my only suggestion to you will be whatever you have put down, you should give a thought and be prepared to explain why you feel strongly about it and why do you feel that this gives you an extra satisfaction, happiness. Okay? Right. Shall we go over to anything else you want to ask? Anybody?
Sir, how many hobbies we can write?
Depends on your personality. Yes. You see, point is, hobbies should be manageable. If we have too many hobbies, a bureaucratic mind, you know, because officials' minds, let me tell you, we have been taught, and this is a part of the civil service culture that began with Lord Macaulay and Warren Hastings right up to this day. See, there are three Greek philosophies which are embedded in the mindset of civil servants. I can talk about the IAS particularly. One is skepticism. Means whatever you hear, please don't take it very seriously. You know, because the problems are deep. I remember when Mrs. Gandhi gave this slogan, Garibi Hatao. Everybody said, yes, it's the most desirable object. This should have been our object many years ago. But at the back of our mind, we knew that it is not likely to be achieved. Not only in her lifetime, but also in our lifetime also. Yes, Garibi Hatao. This is called skepticism. That is, a civil servant cannot be taken for a ride. Second point is a bit of cynicism. It is also a Greek philosophy. See? Cynicism means you take a cynical view of the world, not a very optimistic picture, because human mind is capable of doing enormous damages to the world. Human beings are not rational. Therefore, you have to be a bit cynical. Third is what is called cautious optimism. That is, you are optimistic, but with a bit of caution. Progress in any direction is not what you call unmixed good. There's always a discount. So therefore, this kind of philosophy that is embedded in our culture is essential. For one reason, the doctrine of separation of powers provides civil servants with a great responsibility. Why? Because civil servants exercise power under statutes in their own rights. Okay? And they're accountable to their, what you call, administrative superiors and ultimately to the courts. So therefore, the system depends on ability of the civil servants to deliver justice. Okay? So whatever decisions you take ultimately will be seen by others and judged by others. You are not the last word. Therefore, it is necessary that whatever hobbies you have help towards development of rationality and towards what you call civil service neutrality, apolitical nature of the civil service. And you should not be carried away by something or the other, that will be disastrous. So hobbies are, you can say, elements which reflect your character and your aptitude. Okay? And hobbies should be so projected to create a feeling that you are creative in your mind, that you are ready to think of what you call solutions to the problem, out of the box solutions to the problem. So that hobbies help towards creation of this kind of a mental ability to evolve out of the box solutions. Okay? So we stop here on hobbies. Yeah. Cooking. But for whom? That's important. For your self-consumption? For family, etc. Very good. Creative activity. The question may be that cooking also means chemistry. And then, what kind of food do you like to cook? Chinese, Indian, this or that, or South Indian, or this or that. And what kind of food do you like to cook? And why? How did you develop this? Is it because your mother was a good cook or something or the other? This question may be asked, especially if there's a lady member in the board. So she might ask you some of these questions. Because there are candidates who put down cooking without having cooked really any meal. So she might ask you a few questions about it. So you should be ready about enlightening the board of the kind of food that you cooked and the level of appreciation that it commanded. So you have to be ready for a lengthened conversation. See, the whole idea is to engage you into conversation. That's right. Okay. Now should we move on to other things like your academic qualifications, etc.? A few general points, Yeah. Programming, yes. Computer program? Yes. What kind of program? That question may be asked. Oh, yes, why not? Yes. Then the question will be, what are you going to do after you get into service? with this kind of hobby? Will you apply it to your own work? Okay, it's a good diplomatic answer. That will do. That will be appreciated. Okay? So, shall we move on to your work experience? You see, frankly, our feedback has been that the members, when they go through it, they'd like to see whether you have done any kind of internship outside your institution, training abroad or this or that. Okay? So if you had gone to Germany from IIT for a short course, you should be prepared to tell the board about what you did there. At the same time, what you saw about Germany. You see, once there was a candidate who had been a marine engineer, so traveled all over the world. But therefore we briefed him that if you had gone to Dubai, then please know about the Emirates. It's not just enough that you have seen the shopping malls and that kind of thing, but you also ought to know the political setup of the Emirates and the problem at Yemen or Middle East as a whole. So therefore, if as a part of your training you have been attached to a village or this or that, whatever, you must know about the work that you did very well, be able to explain it, and also to what extent you were benefited from this exposure. Because together, all these add up to your personality. Don't you agree? Suppose you have been a student, you have gone on an excursion or some kind of a study tour to any other place, and if you have mentioned it, in that case, you should be able to tell the board about the benefits that you got because of your exposure. Like that. If you had gone to Japan, people would like to know about Fukushima, nuclear disaster, etc. Or if you are a mechanical engineer going to Germany, they might ask you about electric cars. What do you think of the electric cars? What's the future? Like that. So my idea is that please go through, my suggestion rather, is that please go through whatever you have mentioned in your academic profile and be ready to answer it. And this goes to the basics, like say the schools you attended. DAV school. What does it stand for? Okay? Tell me, what does it stand for? Question will be, could you tell me who was Swami Dayanand? That is correct. But if somebody says, sir, he was a great man, it's not going to help. So therefore, curiosity, constructive curiosity is an essential quality that you must know about environments. You have gone to St. Patrick or St. James or whatever. Who was St. James? Who was St. Mary? Who was St. Patrick? Who was St. Xavier's, for example? So you ought to know the institutions that you attended. You see? And how they are affiliated to some socio-religious, cultural organizations. Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Ashram. You must know about this. Okay? It's a joke. I am fond of repeating. Lady Sri Ram College. A candidate was asked. The answer was the wife of Lord Sri Ram. Obviously, it doesn't help. You'll agree. So therefore, this curiosity is required. Why? Because of the English proverb, charity begins at home. Your curiosity should begin at your home. You must know the environment properly to be able to communicate. So, please go through your academic qualifications and the achievements, the medals that you won, prizes that you earned, like that, and be ready to explain it. But again, Please remember, every entry that you have is a plus point. Depends on how you put it across. For instance, if a person has been appearing in this exam year after year, this is a plus point. Determination, the will to succeed, isn't it? He's trying and trying again. It's not negative, it is positive. So every input that you have put in, please try to read and think of how you could use it as a point of your strength, not a point of weakness. Okay? Fine. Now, we have covered hobbies, academic qualifications. The next point will be the services preference. Should we move over to services? Any question?
In the qualification, we mentioned about the master. This exam is on a graduate level. If we done master also, they will ask question on it. Why you missing this stuff? Why you going into this kind of services in which eligibility is only graduate? And if we done master,
There is a minimum qualification.
minimum qualification.
Minimum means, you see, graduation in the olden days was not a very easy thing to acquire. Number one. Number two is that the gap between graduation and post-graduation is very limited. Because you can't jump to postgraduate degree unless you do graduation. That is your base. No such question will be asked. You've done your, there are candidates with PhDs and all that. Nowadays, because of age limit, being much higher, we have highly qualified people. But the answer will be, sir, I thought I'd be better prepared to discharge multifarious responsibilities with higher academic qualifications. That's all. Honest reply. Okay? Any question? Anything? Yeah.
Sir, if I put only IPS and DELIPS as the only service preference and somehow I get disqualified in the medical for IPS, so which is the next service I would...
God help you. Only God can help you. You see, if you have said, I don't wish to join, and if you are not qualified on health grounds, then I am not in a position to answer your question, frankly. Because I have not come across any candidate who had appeared for entry into only one service. Okay? Any question relating to hobbies and academic qualifications? Pardon? Of course. You see, there's a famous sociologist, Shiv Vishwanathan. He wrote a brilliant piece in the Hindu, The Joy of Walking. And after reading that, I realized that walking could be a spiritual exercise also. It's not just walking on your legs. You think also when you walk. So every such activity, physical activity like walking, jogging, etc., enriches your mind, your body, conditions your soul, your character to meet different situations like that. Okay? Yeah. That itself is a qualification, that you don't have any hobby. Which means you can acquire hobbies later. The answer is, sir, I don't have a hobby. It doesn't prevent me from developing hobbies later on. I would like to use my present opportunity and time for preparing for the exams. God willing, inshallah, if I succeed, that I develop multiple hobbies. Yeah. You see, as I said in the beginning, they would like to see your generalist potential, ability to adapt, to different situations. Suppose you're posted in Nagaland, or some remote areas, you ought to have the aptitude to learn other languages, to be able to interact. See? So therefore, the hobbies are a means to know your adaptability, your ability to adjust, adapt to different environments. That's an essential quality to be in this service. Okay. Any other thought? No.
Sir, the hobby section asks us to put hobbies and extracurriculars, which we did in the column. But the leadership position, the column mentions school as well in this year's tab. So the column which is asking us for leadership positions here, it has mentioned school/college. So school or college.
Yes.
So is that a discrepancy or?
No, it is to know you little more. The idea is to know you little more. The whole purpose of the DAP is to know you.
I'm asking this because it wasn't there the year before. So
See, they would like to know more about you. That's the reason.
it's a deliberate.
Yes, it's a deliberate. The idea is to see how your mind grew, matured, developed over the years, right from your school, over the years, like that. Okay? Okay, can you repeat the question? Okay. Okay. Let me repeat your question. If there is no achievement, anything of the sort, what would be the response? I would say that itself is an achievement. Why? Because there is no need to achieve all these. You could make it right up to mains interview stage. So remember, there is nothing minus about whatever you leave, nothing negative. Everything is positive. I will develop this later. That should be the answer. Okay? Fine. Then we move on to the more taxing subjects like service preferences and then cadre allocation. Okay. You have this paper before you? Right. What exactly do you like to know? Let me just ask you. Because there are 24 cadres, out of which 4 at the bottom, no, not 4, little more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cadres belong to Group B of the Central Civil Service. And then you have Group A, then you have 2 All India Services. Okay. Now what exactly are the issues that you would like to raise? And what problems did you have in making these preferences?
Which services should be preferred?
I guess you have already thought about it.
Apart from the top 3.
Okay. Any other? Pardon? Career progression. Okay. Isn't it too early to think of it? Well, what you said is questionable. Anyway, let me just tell you, if you look at this, it's a mixed bag. Okay? You have the All India Services. There are 3 in this country, IAS, Indian Forest Service and IPS. Okay. What is an All India Service? A service which is common to the center and the states. Okay. They deal with subjects which are under central list as well as in the state list in the course of their career. Indian Forest Service is the only service which deals with the subject in the concurrent list of the Constitution. Okay. Now, all India services, I need not tell you, we know all about it. Now, it is a choice is yours, but IAS, don't quote me, we thought it stands for this, I am supreme. IAS stands for I am supreme. That's what we used to think of it. Because it is the successor service of the Indian Civil Service, the heaven-born. It was called the heaven-born service. That was open to the Indians only in 1855 through competitive examination. And S.N. Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore's elder brother, was the first to get selected. And the last ICS officer who passed away when I was in Calcutta in November was Mr. M.M. Sen, 1943 batch. He passed away at the ripe old age of just 100. So we joked among ourselves that ICS is really heaven-born. You see, they either go to heaven early or they go little late. But better late than never. And I may say, IAS holds a unique strategic position in the governance of this country, both at the center and in the states. And this is an unrivaled strategic importance for governance of the country. Okay? In the sense, certain posts are reserved for the IAS, like the post of Cabinet Secretary, the post of Chief Secretary. Chief Secretary has a right to be present in the cabinet meetings, and it is his responsibility to record the decisions of the cabinet and communicate to them. If you go by the rules of executive business of Government of India, take for instance, Defense of India is the responsibility of the Defense Secretary. Like this, I need not go into it. By and large, people have been known. In this Coralbag area, every institute is called IAS Academy. I have not seen any IPS Academy or anything of the sort. And that more or less tells you where IAS stands. Indian Foreign Service. IAS and the Indian Foreign Service are primarily concerned with policy making. They are an important part of the policy making apparatus of the government. You might go through the definition of higher civil service of European, the Organization of European OECD, European Community and Development. So, Foreign Service, according to the Pay Commission's report, is at par with IAS. Whatever is provided to IAS applies to Indian Foreign Service, though it is a central service. Indian Police Service has an important strategic role in diverse areas of security. It has wings like RAW, IB, SIB, then it has presence in paramilitary forces. Like that, you all know about it, I need not go into it. But depends on your aptitude. Some people are not keen to wear a uniform, because if you wear a uniform, there are certain compulsions associated with an uniform service in the matter of physical fitness, in the matter of behavior, in the matter of discipline. It's a world of difference. So therefore, those officers who feel that they would like to don a uniform and work also in the field, what exactly is work? Its primary job is prevention of crime. Crime prevention is a primary job. If you see our 1861 Police Act, it is crime prevention, investigation into crimes. then filing the charge sheet. Okay? And then an instrument of maintenance of public peace and order. In areas where you have the police commissioner system, the IPS officers enjoy powers of the executive magistrate under Code of Criminal Procedure. But there is a rider. Whereas the district magistrate in a normal area has the power to call upon the armed forces, army, in aid of civil power. This power to call out the army is not with the police commissioners. It is only with the Home Secretary or the Lieutenant Governor, as the case may be. So therefore, policing has its implications. You all know about it, thanks to media. So it's a matter of choice. But I must tell you that if you have a knack of mind to deal with crimes-related activities, prevention, etc., investigation, and also intelligence of a larger dimensions, you might go for it. So anything about these three services? Goddess?
What are the physical standards that they look in police service?
I really don't know, frankly. It's laid down. Height is one. Chest must be something. There's some physical thing. I really, frankly, don't know. I can't. Physical fitness is required, for instance. Yes. Any question on these three? Now, a man of ordinary prudence, quote and unquote, is an expression considered absolutely essential for a civil servant to acquire. This expression owes its origin to Lord Macaulay, a man of ordinary prudence. So, if we apply this principle, a man of ordinary prudence should not give higher preference to Group B service cadres. So I suggest that you don't give higher preference to a Group B. It might create a wrong impression in the board. Please note this. The question will be, he is more comfortable with subordinate position. He is taking the trouble of appearing for the exams, and yet he would be happy to join Group B. What kind of mental makeup is that? Opposed to progress? Not too rational? Like that. So, first advice will be, please put Group B at the bottom. But if you put, say, one like Delhi, Andaman, etc., higher, then you have got to justify. Sir, मैं दिल्ली में रहना चाहता हूँ, यहाँ सुविधा ज़्यादा है. But then you have to be very clear. Sir, I am from Delhi, and this job means administration in Delhi, working for them, and I will be comfortable. But you must be prepared to give reason why you would like to give higher preference to Group B. It's a matter of choice. You can do it. The same thing applies to Pondicherry, civil service, police service. Because you see, Group B cadre means you have to wait for another 10 to 15 years at least, to get promoted to the IAS or IPS. Okay? So whether you are keen to accept that kind of a job, it's yours. Its choice is yours entirely. Any question about the three all India services? Then I move on to the other groups. Pardon? IAS and foreign service. You see, there was a time when foreign service was the preferred option for people who did well in the IAS. Say during my time. That was the period when foreign exchange crisis was deep and foreign travel was uncommon. But over the years, especially after, IT revolution, when prime ministers and presidents of countries started tweeting. The diplomacy has been reduced to an art of expanded conversation, generally carried out in public domain. Therefore, over the years, the charm of being in the foreign service, which means staying out of the country for a long period of time, did lose its appeal. Though, in terms of salaries, parks, etc., and the kind of experience that you have, depending on your intellectual inclinations, mental and social inclinations, it offers a remarkable opportunity. You are a part of the, what is called, high state matters, diplomacy, international disputes, international negotiations, dealing with United Nations agencies, and a whole lot of it, It's primarily a matter of your own choice, okay? For instance, the question was asked, why don't you wish to join foreign service? Sir, I would not feel comfortable to stay out of my country for a long time. It's fine, honest reply. I would much rather like to stay and work in the country due to my family circumstances. Fair enough. So therefore, you must be very sure of why are you opting for a particular service. What I would suggest that most of you, I find 90%, over 90%, they put IAS as the first preference, second is IPS, third is the foreign service. But if you ask me, the rule of the thumb will be, don't apply your mind, but just follow this order. As many of my friends did. There is no need to apply a mind, because a mind has already gone into it. So you follow this order. That's sensible. Why apply your mind? You see, it is a sensible order. After all, some bureaucrats have prepared it, they have typed it, they have applied their mind. Why do you tax your mind unnecessarily? You accept it. Now you see, there's a sense in it. Just look at it. Now, we have accounts group of service. That is cadre 4, 5, then 6, 7. Yes, you have an accounts group of service. Indian Audit and Account Service, postal accounts, civil accounts, okay, railway accounts, defense accounts. Okay. Now, broadly, these cadres can be seen from a common man's perspective. Cadres which have direct interface with the people, where you exercise power over other citizens. And cadres which support government functioning. Now, accounts department primarily maintains accounts for the government. It has no interaction with the public. It does not exercise any power over other citizens. Okay? So, accounts group is basically what is called in-house civil service activity of maintaining accounts as per rules, as per financial rules, and under the supervision of Comptroller and Auditor General of India. It's a constitutional authority. All accounts of the central government are maintained and audited as per the direction of the CAA and AG. Okay. So accounts group being more or less office work. Okay. And with little interface with the environment in which you are posted. You get my point? All accounts group, in-house activity. It doesn't have any power over other citizens. Now, if you go by this definition, the postal service comes in this category. You have no contact with the people unless you decide to go to a post office. Nowadays many people prefer courier service, etc. Telegraph is no longer there. Therefore, postal service means providing a service. They are service providers but they don't have any power over others. The same thing applies to railway service. Railway accounts is like any other accounts service. Under Railway Act, an individual comes under it only when you buy a railway ticket or to send some, merchandise or whatever. Otherwise, under Railways Act, there is no power exercisable by the railway officers over other citizens. In other words, the moment you enter into a railway station, you are under Railway Act, but not otherwise. If you have a private jet, then you have nothing to do with the railways. There are many rich people, super rich people of India. They don't even have anything to do with the airports either. Isn't it? So, therefore, it's a matter of your choice. Whether you'd like to be in a cadre that has interface with the people, where you are asked to implement rules affecting so many people. And if you go by that, then income tax service, revenue service will come under this category. But remember, Supreme Court had ruled that when a customs officer confiscates, I'm talking about an extreme case, any contraband, anything, it is a judicial function. He has to apply his judicial mind and take a decision. Why? Because all these decisions are subject to appeal. Okay. Therefore, income tax officer might issue an order, but it is also subject to appeal. In other words, what you call revenue service means enforcement of revenue laws, custom laws, income tax laws, etc., etc. And any law enforcement agency is ultimately to deliver justice, administrative justice, and also accountability is built into it, because there is a scope for appeal against your order. So you must have an attitude of mind willing to learn laws, write orders, be ready to an appeal against your order, like that. So it is an entirely different ball game altogether, say as compared to accounts department. So, and then you have certain cadres like Defense Estate Service. It is under Ministry of Defense, dealing with cantonment administration primarily. But cantonment administration is a quasi-civilian activity in the sense that you have to share responsibility with the local formation commander. But your jurisdiction is only confined to the cantonment. Right? Now, the post of Assistant Security Commissioner, again, it's a police job, connected with the police. If you have that kind of aptitude, you can as well go for it. Now, then we have certain interesting services which have been inducted recently, like Indian Trade Service and Indian Corporate Law Service. Indian Trade Service is important because it has to deal with export promotion and it has to deal with foreign trade. The first appointment is Assistant Director General and all that. It comes under Director General of Foreign Trade. It's very important. If you have commerce background or economics background, you might as well like it. It means exposure to what is called globalization. So it's very interesting as a new service. It is urban based. You don't have to work in villages or rural areas. It is based only in big cities. And the work basically boils down to export promotion, also looking at the imports. In other words, you are a part of the economic administration of the country. Okay? We have Indian Corporate Law Service, which is the recent service. If you have some legal background particularly, This is interesting in the sense, after Naresh Chandra Committee's report on corporate governance is a very important subject today. Look at the mess we are in. Look at this case of Unitech, or company after company is sinking. Therefore, in the coming days, corporate governance will be a big challenge, especially when you are talking about globalization. Okay? But it requires appreciation of corporate laws, which means after you are recruited, you will be asked to go through a rigorous course of training to acquire mastery over corporate laws, and some knowledge of accountancy also is very much important in that. Fine? So this completes the Group A services. Any question? Any question? Yeah. Hmm? See, yes, you can do, but you will be asked to explain why you don't like to join foreign service. You may be. Because you see, foreign service has as I said, a strategic importance in India's position in the world. And especially in the context of globalization, it has become all the more relevant. So, you can do it, but you may be asked to explain, that you can give a straightforward, honest reply. Sir, I don't wish to move outside. I would like to live here, serve the country. That will be accepted. It is not what you speak. It depends on how you speak. Your voice, your body language should be enough to create some kind of a sympathy, agreement in the minds of the board. Like that. That's important, right? Any? Yeah.
So we can also say that the problem with foreign service is that if we get foreign service, then we cannot again write IAS, we cannot write it.
No. Yes. Why? Because IAS and foreign service are at par with each other. It's a long-standing thing, and remember, today this question might be raised, but what is foreign service? If you read Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's book, The Indian Struggle, I wonder if any of you know about it. The Indian Struggle is what he wrote when he was in Germany. He put down a definition of foreign rule. What is foreign rule? Can you tell me what is foreign rule? India was under foreign rule for many years. What do you mean? What is meant by foreign rule? See, Subhash Chandra Bose, who obtained 4th rank in the Indian Civil Service examination and scored the highest marks in English language and English papers, he put it down brilliantly. Foreign rule means when entry into strategic decision-making apparatus of the government is totally denied to the ruled. Strategic decision-making apparatus. If you look at the structure of government of India before 1947, I won't go into details, but these facts. No Indian was ever made Chief Secretary to a provincial government till 1947. Though Indian civil service was open to Indians from 1861. There are many Indian ICS officers, but nobody was made Chief Secretary to any provincial government. The last Chief Secretary of Assam, where I had worked, was Sir Harold Denning. Before there was Sir John Kerr. These are the names you see. No Indian was appointed as Inspector General of State Police before 1946. The first person who was appointed was in Punjab, Second person was in UP. That too just before independence. Because these are the strategic positions. So at that time, there was a department called Foreign and Political Department, which dealt with India's relations with neighboring countries and also the crown's relations with the princely states. No Indian was allowed to enter till 1930s. And the first person who joined was Sir Albion Rajkumar Banerjee. Only after 1935, when the Brits felt that it's time to go back home, they started allowing Indians to move in. Then Sir Girija Shankar Bajpai, KPS Menon, Sir N. Raghavan Pillai, some of the ICS officers were taken in. But primarily, it was a white British-dominated organization. So therefore, Indian Foreign Service is something very great in the sense it is the product of our independence. Because we are free, therefore we could be diplomats. So, because India is free, we are in a position to join these strategic services. So therefore, to say that I don't want to join foreign service unless for bona fide reasons, it will amount to expression of a bit of ignorance or lack of appreciation of the role of Indian Foreign Service in the governance of this country. So I would say, to be on the safe side, put Foreign Service in the top. Because there is no guarantee that you would be selected immediately. You wait for the results. What's wrong? So a man of ordinary prudence, I would suggest you follow this order. And there is no need to apply your mind at this stage. Because ultimately, your service allocations will be decided by the Department of Personnel after the results are out. So why tax your mind? But if your inclinations are very clear, please feel free to do it. But be ready to justify your decision. Okay? Yes, good question. Very good. I'm sorry. I apologize. I should have. You see, this is a cadre under Ministry of Defence for management of ordnance factories located all over the country. Okay? Now, these factories have technical as well as non-technical staff. Now, if you join the service, you will be in the management cadre of the ordnance factories. But if you have a technical background, it will be very good, but it is not civil service per se. It is rather, I would say, serving in a public sector undertaking. Like Indian Oil Company or anything like that. It is a dedicated group of companies, factories, for indigenization of military equipments. It has great future. If you go for Make in India strategy or whatever. But it is better that you should be happy about working as though you are in the industrial sector. It is outside the normal civil service. In the sense that you have no power over other citizens. There is no law which empowers you to listen to the, say, both the parties and take a decision. And the same thing applies to Indian Railway Personnel Service. And, say, Indian Railway Traffic Service. But mind you, according to the latest decision of the government, all these three cadres have been merged into Indian Railway Management Service. So, this identity of the service is really not there now. So, therefore, I did not discuss this. Okay? Yeah. Indian Information Service is designed to serve organizations like Director General of All India Radio, PIB, Press Information Bureau, and provide the, what you call, journalistic cover to government's activities. You know, the Information and Broadcasting, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is really the administrative department, and there are many posts outside the country representing, say, Indian Information Officers, Service Officer representing All India Radio, Doordarshan, like that. They are also part of the Prime Minister's office. They also travel abroad. But one requirement is that knowledge of English language should be good. To write in English, speak there, etc. So those people who have, you know, aptitude for this kind of work, reading, writing, etc., speaking, editing journals, etc., would be really suitable for this kind of service. Any question? And about Group A services? Fine? Right? Okay. Then you move on to Group B. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 service cadres. Now, out of these, 4 cadres, that is 21, 22, 23, 24 serial numbers, these are what you call the feeder cadres of the IAS and IPS under what is called AgMoot cadre. You see, Union territories don't have their public service commissions. See, because they are centrally administered areas, so the personnel are recruited as a part of the central government civil service. Okay. So for this gazetted posts under Group B, there being no provincial public service commission, UPSC is given the responsibility of recruiting personnel for this Group B civil service posts. Civil service as well as police service posts. Now, people who come from that area, for example, they might find it quite convenient to go back to your home and then get promoted. But AgMoot cadre, once a person is promoted, it becomes a part of a cadre which deals with, which rather covers Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, Mizoram, you know, like that. So it's a part of the UT cadres. The difference between UT cadres and state cadres is that UT cadres are administered by the Minister of Home Affairs, not by the Department of Personnel in a way, because this is part of Home Ministry's domain. Okay. So one should be prepared to work eventually to Arunachal Pradesh. Now Ladakh also is in Union territory. So if you have that kind of a attitude, you might opt for this. But career-wise, it provides a huge variety. You are in Lakshadweep, you are in Andamans, you may be in Arunachal, Ladakh, Kashmir Valley included in it, I'm sure, eventually. So it is a choice of yours. For the adventurous, for the people who would like to know the unknown, this is the choice for you. But remember the golden rule, a man of ordinary prudence. Why this word, why this expression? Because all rules are framed on an assumption that a man of ordinary prudence would be able to understand and follow the laws. That's the whole basis of the kind of administration that we have. So this is what cadre preferences are all about. Any question? If not, then you move on to the other third part. Yeah. I'm having served in the Ministry of Defense. I don't know how it slipped my memory. You see, this cadre is a recent creation. You know, the Armed Forces headquarters at Delhi, which means it will be posted here in Delhi only. They need a civil service to be able to communicate with the Ministry of Defense in a language that civilians in the Ministry of Defense can understand. There's a huge communication gap between the armed forces and the civilian counterparts in the Ministry of Defense, partly because of the different systems of putting across things on paper. The language, the examination, say a reference to rules, regulations, budget, etc. Some of these are not very clear. Therefore, Armed Forces headquarters felt the need for a civil service which will, make it easier for them to get across, to get their matters resolved with the Ministry of Defense. Therefore, this service was created. Now, it has a lot of advantages. One, you remain at Delhi, number one. Number two, it is also a challenge because you have got to interact with the Faujis, who are rank conscious, have any of you read any novels of John Masters? John Masters? Have you heard of this novel, Bhavani Junction? No. John Masters had written a number of fantastic novels about India during the Second World War, about the Burma campaign, about the Anglo-Indian community in India. And these novels tell you that there was a communication gap between the armed forces and the civilians in India. You see, the Armed Forces Headquarters Civil Service is to bridge that communication gap. And it has an extremely important role. But again, you require a different mindset to be able to work in an area where all your life you will be doing the same thing, whether you would like to do it or not. Because it is desk-bound job. It is not field work. That's the important point. And this applies to all the services under accounts group. It's not field-oriented. Okay? So broadly, you have accounts group, and we have revenue services, revenue cadres, primarily dealing with enforcement of tax laws or revenue laws, which means you might get exposure to higher finance, budgeting, etc. And then you have these cadres responsible for administering the country, direct interface with the people. This includes All India services and also the counterparts Group B service cadres. That's the whole spectrum. Yeah. See, they are expected to keep it absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. First, cantonments lay down an area where you should live. You should not cultivate, because you might reveal some secrets, and the secrets, Official Secrets Act, and particularly the instructions that Army had, what you call in-house system of regulating discipline, is severe. Therefore, it is expected that your contact with the civilians should be minimum. Therefore, wherever Army is in, is involved in civil disturbances, there is a PRO, Public Relations Officer, who is the face of the Army. Nobody else is expected to talk to any journalist, no. And if any young Army officer is a bit talkative, his CO will call him and give him dressing in the Army language, which is not particularly civil. You see, therefore, again, the Indian Army more or less has inherited the British Army tradition. It's strictly apolitical. And isolation of the armed forces from the public is a security requirement. Therefore, they cannot publish any article in the newspaper. You can't write a letter without getting clearance. In fact, now because of IT revolution, you see, things have become a little more difficult, like your social media accounts and all that. But in Western countries, these are strictly not done. The discipline has to be maintained at any cost. Army has certain expressions which is hangover of the British Raj. Everything is tic-tac. Everything is tic-tac. Bandobast acha hona chahiye. See? So therefore, everything what is called pakka, P-U-C-C-A. There is no question of any hanky-panky, like that. So it's a different ball game altogether. But don't quote me, there is an advantage, that is access to the military canteen that these officers get. That is a plus point. It might enrich your life. It might cause damage to your liver. So, choice is yours. So that's the last point. Choice is yours. I have given you a rough idea of the plus points and minus points. Choice is yours entirely. Okay? Fine? Any question? Right?
What if we put this defense services above IRS?
No problem. Nothing. It's a free country. You are exercising your discretion. Who is going to stop it? Yes, you are a free citizen of a free country and you have the choice. You are exercising your choice. Okay.
Should we put IAS above IRTS or?
All are the same. If you put IRS above, you can justify it more. For instance, you can say, I would like to be not always on the track of railways. I would like to, my mind is off the track. So you can put it. It depends on how you play your words. Why? Why should I confine myself to the railway tracks when the wide world is before me? Like that, you see. One point, just mentioned a little. You see, if these questions are asked in the interview, don't prolong the conversation. Make your point and stop on your own. Because if you hang on, some other matters not relevant might come up. So you should give a short, precise answer. Don't hang on to it, because there are so many other, what is called extraneous circumstances associated with discarders. Why get into that? The idea is that as a man of ordinary prudence, you have applied your mind and you have put down your preferences. It is what you call rational choice. It is a rational choice and you have to stand by it. Okay? That should be the motto. You have to prove that you are a man of ordinary prudence. You are rational, because ultimately the quality that will be tested is, number one, whether you have a capacity to think independently, come to a conclusion, and you have the capacity to defend that position, hold that decision. Because all these three qualities add up to what you call leadership. Leadership is the most important quality expected of an aspiring civil servant to these highest cadres. Because from day one, you are a leader. Whatever post you join after selection, you are an officer. And there's a high expectation about you. And you have to measure up to this. That's important. is more important for the ladies, because in our patriarchy-dominated society, I found that lady IAS officers, they are sources of terror. Many of them are highly competent. And why? Because in the male world, they projected, quite rightly, a no-nonsense approach. So much so that I have worked under a legendary lady officer, Mrs. Trivedi, who was secretary personnel. One of my colleagues one day entered into a room and by mistake, by slip of tongue, said, "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, sir." And she was not exactly happy. He says, "Madam, it's a slip of tongue, but indirectly, it is a tribute to you." Because you're more than a man. Just as Mrs. Gandhi, when she was presiding over the cabinet, the general view in Delhi was she was the only man in the cabinet. You see, and when she passed away, Economist magazine of London published a cover page issue, which I still have. What was the title? The Death of an Empress. Death of an Empress. She was not just the Prime Minister, but something more. So therefore, what I'm trying to say, that when you go and appear before the board, there will be always a lady member. She might focus on you, ask you a few questions. Try to answer in a matter-of-fact way. It's a matter-of-fact answer. It should be clear, cogent, and confident. It is the level of confidence of your reply that will count. Because that is an essential quality of leadership. Get my point? Okay. Any question on this? Okay, then move on to cadre preferences, which is a pretty sensitive and a difficult issue in a way. This applies only to those, obviously, who would prefer all India services, IAS and IPS. Okay. Now, what is the scheme here? Have you gone through this scheme? Here, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there are 5 zones. You see, to a person like me, who believes in reading present in the light of the past, when this arrangement was not there in our times, when I say it, it seems to me it is the revival of the old presidency system that we had during the British period. You see, there were 4 presidencies: Bengal presidency, Madras, 3, Bombay, 3 presidencies. A presidency was notified at Agra just before mutiny. So Agra presidency, 4. And then you have the princely states. So what has been done now is basically to create 5 presidencies, 5 zones. Each zone is a kind of presidency covering number of states adjacent to each other. Okay. Now, this being the position, how will you decide as a man of ordinary prudence and or as a person who has an interest in other cultures, interested in knowing the country and serving the country in different areas? You have 2 emotions every human being has. One, to stay close to your home, your near and dear ones. Other is to know the unknown, to face the challenges. Now these impulses interact, and it is for you to decide. Here, there cannot be any golden rule. Now, ordinarily what people do, say, you have a large Hindi-speaking zone. Okay? Like Chhattisgarh, say this zone 2, Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha. Then you have zone 2. You have Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. Now, the areas where Odisha is an odd kind of a state in this group, but otherwise, these areas are where Hindi is spoken or widely understood, as in Gujarat or Maharashtra. So, if you culturally feel inclined to live in the midst of your own people, it would make sense that you give your preference accordingly. And then, next two is up to you. A choice between Eastern India and choice between South India. A choice between idli dosa and fish curry and rice. This is the matter. It's very plain and simple. I look at it that way. So it depends on your own inclination. Now take for instance, zone 5. Here, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana. Essentially it is Madras Presidency. 5th, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura, West Bengal is old Bengal Presidency. Because the whole of Northeast was the region defined by the British as the eastern frontier of Bengal Presidency. Northeastern frontier of Bengal Presidency. Therefore, you might have seen an important law, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873, under which inner line permit was introduced. And after 1873, the only notification that was issued bringing one area under this was on 11th December 2019. But Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation defines the frontier. This includes what is northeast and the areas which are unadministered, in the sense areas which are neither under control of Burma or China or India. These were placed under what is called inner line areas. Inner line means there's an outer line. It's a very complex history, but broadly this is the situation. Now when you make your choice, it must be a rational choice. Now you have to define rationality in terms of your social moodings, your aptitudes, your background, your education, etc. What do you think should be? No, do we need to know anything more on this? But it is entirely your choice. But again, the rule of the thumb will be, if you are from Hindi-speaking area, 1, 2, 3, 4, you follow this order. Agmut is, this zone, Agmut, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan and Uttarakhand. Now if you look at it, it is also in the same. But there is a problem. Problem is the Agmut. It means all over the country. Then you have Jammu and Kashmir. So basically it means serving in 3 hill states like Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh and Haryana and Punjab. Punjab and Haryana were basically one province before. So you are in northern part of India bordering Tibet and Pakistan. Now, there are challenges in it. So what I suggest is that you give a serious thought and look at the possibilities, the working conditions. Now if we agree, then we can go one after another. Okay? Yeah. Home state. Okay. Yes, yes. You see, in the form, there is a column that's very interesting. It was not there in our time. Given your academic profile, what state do you consider your home state? Isn't it? So you have to apply your mind and make a reasoned decision. Okay? So what most candidates would do is to give first preference to the zone, home zone, so to say, and then close to home zone, then near abroad, then far east. It is that kind of mindset that most of us have. And then deep south. It is up to you. You have to make a choice. But what I would suggest, there is a purpose behind it. Purpose is to see whether you have interest in other cultures, whether you are attuned to working in different conditions, whether you have interest for the country as a whole. This will be tested during your interview. So it might be of some use, might be useful to put your first home state and then you put a zone little away from Exeter. Take for instance, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh. Second zone you put, second preference you put Agmut, Haryana, Himachal, etc. You are in the same area, but the ball game is different, situation is different completely. Or you put Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Maharashtra. You will be able to justify saying that Gujarat means exposure to complex economic issues, private sector development, dealing with economic problems, corporate governance, etc. And then you can put, if you have some kind of interest in difficult areas, insurgency-prone areas like Nagaland, Manipur, etc., could be your next preference. So that will give you a well-rounded personality profile. So you have to think of this, what kind of profile of yourself you would like to project before the board. Yes. What question is that? See, I really don't know it very well, frankly. But what I can see from reading this, that the idea is to know how deeply committed you are to serve in your home state.
So is that an advantage or disadvantage?
Advantage, of course.
And if we are not interested in serving in our home state?
In that case, that will be evident from the way you indicate your preferences.
So does that create any impression on the board members?
No. You see, board members are neutral. They cannot have any kind of a prejudice or kind of an opinion. They would like to be fair to you and see that you have applied your mind. That is the only thing, that you have applied your mind and indicated your choice.
There is a condition that if you do not apply for home state as your first preference, then you will not be considered at all for the allocation. That is the point.
Okay, in that case, in a routine manner, you could give your first preference to your home state. And that is sensible.
So, but like, I belong to West Bengal, but northeastern states are there with West Bengal, so that is an issue, right? So
Why should it be issue? I have served my all life there. Why should it be an issue? Rather, you should be happy. You get the same fish curry and rice culture. Manipur means Pearl Kingdom. It's a wonderful place. Imphal, road to Mandalay. Burma is just next door. You are a part of Act East policy, or Look East, or whatever. Sikkim, you are on way to Tibet. In fact, I must say that first, if you are posted in northeastern state, you get extra allowances. Something like 33% you will get. Disturbed area allowance, and God willing, this will remain disturbed. To be able to get the extra allowances. Then certain other creature comforts. Third, this is an area which is wholly English speaking, which is extremely comfortable. I found it very good. Nagaland, for example, is a fantastic place. I worked with a Naga minister who read up to class 4, but he could still call upon his South Indian steno and dictate a note in English. Western music, church music. Shillong is Scotland of the East, where English is the language. Everyone speaks English. So, then you have tea gardens around, Red River, Blue Hills. Go up to the mountains, and not much of work. In the tribal areas, the administration of tribal areas is different. For example, let me tell you, during the British period, there are two types of provinces: regulation and non-regulation. Regulation provinces were those where regulations are fully applied. Non-regulation provinces like Punjab, like Northeast, they produced what you call a frontier school of administrators who had enormous powers. For example, in many of these Northeast areas, you have the judicial powers also. There is no separation of executive and judiciary. As a district magistrate, you are also district judge. Nowhere in India you will get this kind of opportunity to work. You see? So every cadre has its own. Take Chhattisgarh. You have the Naxalite problem, a lifetime's experience. Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, every state has its own strong points and weak points. Therefore, I will say, as a rational Indian, there is really nothing much to choose. Take Odisha. You have a chief minister who was a close friend of Jacqueline Kennedy. Can you think of it? Who speaks impeccable English, and a forward-looking chief minister. And look at the transformation that he has been able to achieve in Odisha. So every state has a different culture, it has a different political culture, it has a different society. See? And therefore, it holds enormous opportunities and pleasures for work. Look at the way the Britishers worked. The grammar of the Garo language was written by a British Deputy Commissioner. Naga people, the anthropological study was done by them, by the Britishers. You know about Alan Octavian Hume? What was his main achievement? Indian National Congress. But was it something more? You know about him? You see, Alan Octavian Hume was collector of Etcetera district. His book, The Bards of India, he is India's first ornithologist. You know about Grierson? Grierson. Exactly. He was a Bengal civilian, ICS. He left behind 13 volumes of Linguistic Survey of India. Even today, whenever you have any problem, we had one problem when Bodoland problem began. Who are the Bodos? What language do they speak? The only book that you referred to was Grierson. So therefore, wherever you are posted, if we have eyes to see, minds to think, ears to hear, this is a huge opportunity for you to contribute to the development of the country. So therefore, a broad mindset is required. So I would suggest put first preference to your home, and then you apply your mind and make a choice. Okay? You see, Deli means it is a UT cadre, Agmut, which you can as well opt for. There is no problem. See, after all, Agmut is a part of this Zone 1, where you have Haryana also nearby. UP is not far off from Delhi. Noida is next door. So my point is that since you are seeking appointment on the central government, think of the wider picture of India and give the impression that you have interest in other cultures, other environments, and therefore you are willing to serve any part of the country. That will create a good impression, a positive impression in the minds of the board. Okay? Any clarification? Anything? So your question is, what is the position of Indian Forest Service? First, don't say services. It is service, singular, not plural. Now it's a part of the Indian English that when you watch TV, you see services. That's absolutely wrong. It is singular. The Indian Forest Service. Forest Service is at par with other two All India services, in the sense that these days Forest Service officers are posted as though they are generalists in departments like finance, defense, agriculture, etc. Because ultimately the experience in the state is not really confined to management of forests. It also means environmental governance, and the ministry is called Ministry of Forest, Environment and Climate Change. The climate change is a multidisciplinary kind of an activity, you see. So forest officers develop over the years, expertise in related disciplines like wildlife preservation, climate change, soil conservation, you see. Then afforestation, then commercial plantation, like that, in administrative as well as field activities. So that way it is really very good. If you are applying for it, if you get it, nothing like it. You see, if you are in forest service and posted in forest, at least you will not be exposed to polluted air. Like this. Clean air, clean water, fine environment, lot of greenery. You see? So, and discipline, mind you, forestry is a multidisciplinary activity now. And you have huge scope for advancement in career. Look at the world. It is all global warming. So you might as well specialize in climate change. You may land up in Rome, or exotic places, in the UN agencies, or Paris. So the idea is that every cadre transcends the initial narrow focus of its activities. And these cadres provide an opportunity to go beyond the limited scope of the service. Now, you must have the intellectual ability to grab that opportunity and move up. That's what career progression is all about. Okay? Anything? Yeah.
What if I don't do any of those and I'm giving the preferences of those, and if I don't opt for any of the zones, then how the cadre allocation
You see, if you don't give, then it is up to the DOPT. You are on what is called in economics indifference curve. That you are indifferent completely. Fine, then you leave it to decision to ministry, but then it gives an indication that you have no mind of your own. There could be two interpretations. One, you have not applied your mind, or you don't consider it is consider it important enough. Therefore, you left it blank. That might be a minus point. Because the whole purpose, as I mentioned, of a form is to compel you to apply your mind.
if I opt for 4 zones and then I leave one, then I continue the preferences of the zones likewise, leaving one zone in each line.
Which means that you are not particularly keen, you are indifferent about this zone, whether it is given to you or not. No, fine. That you might be called upon to explain. And you should be able to give a convincing reply. Okay, yeah. In the forest service? See, point is how would they know about it? You have been selected, you have qualified for UPSC civil service interview. Now there is nothing here, unless you have mentioned that I have already been selected for Indian Forest Service. Have you mentioned it? Or you have? But have you been selected already? Okay. Question is, unless you reveal it. Yes, sir. I'll appear for interview. And then if they ask you, given a choice, what will you do? Sir, I'll think about it later. When the results are out. You see, premature thoughts are not required. Because you see, success cannot be taken for granted. Say, yes, sir. Then the answer will be, sir, I am very keen to join any of the All India services. Because of my academic background, I applied for Forest Service examination. See, and then I'll decide what to do. Suppose you get selected in Revenue Service. Now, I would say a man of ordinary prudence would have joined Indian Forest Service. Because all India services are a cut above the rest. And if you look at the career profile of Forest Service officers, you will see that after a certain level, they become generalists, like IAS. So, you see, let me tell you frankly, the system of India is such that after a certain point, your service background is not important. What is important is you. You are important. Whether you have matured enough to hold diverse responsibilities. So therefore, you might be working in ministries or activities unconnected with your initial cadre. So that is a long-term situation. The greatness of the civil service is that it is opportunities. It provides opportunities to people to develop that kind of multifarious personality, multi-dimensional, interests in different subjects, which would qualify you for holding posts outside your mainstream. That's it. But you should tactfully say, I'll decide it, sir. Yes, any other thought? Tell me, any question? Yeah. Now that depends on your rank, position. Two things, your rank and the preferences indicated by other candidates and the number of vacancies. These three factors we'll consider. But if you are, say, fairly high in the list, and you will get it. Any question on this? About the whole matter that we discussed? No? Then, ladies and gentlemen, all that is left for me is to wish you all the very best in your endeavors. You see, success in UPSC examination is largely, as the common adage goes, is largely a matter of luck. But what is luck? I was trying to find out an adequate definition of luck, a spiritual kind of a definition. And after a long time, I found it in the writings of Sri Aurobindo. See, as you know, Sri Aurobindo obtained 11th rank in the Indian Civil Service examination held in London in 1889. The name that occurred was Ackroyd Aurobindo Ghosh. Ackroyd was the English name that he had to be given because he was educated in England even when he was young. So he wrote, and I quote, what he tried to understand what role luck plays in life. So, in his most fascinating work, Sri Aurobindo wrote, when thou hast the command, care only to fulfill it, rest is God's blessings and will, which men call luck, chance, or fortune. Unquote. It is a Latinized English. What it means, let me explain. When you have the command of God, care only to fulfill it. In your case, what it means is that you appeared for the examination, responding to the command of God. And you cared only to fulfill it by your hard work, amply proved by your success in prelims and also in mains. Care only to fulfill it. Rest is God's will and blessings, which men call luck, chance, or fortune. Unquote. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, let me say that I've been immensely happy and benefited for the interaction that I have had with you, and I wish you all the very best in your endeavors. May God bless you. Bye. Thank you. If there is anything more to be asked for, you might contact Vision IAS. They'll give you my contact number, email, etc. Okay. You'll be most welcome for this purpose. Thank you. it and go this way.